She was the most brilliant princess of the royal family, destined by heaven to be the empire's rightful ruler. Yet on the eve of her coronation, she was brutally murdered. However, those who conspired against her were none other than her cherished sister, her beloved lover, her carefully nurtured nephew, and her trusted colleague. In the darkness of death, her heart burns with unwillingness. She prays to the gods for another chance, vowing to reclaim everything that belongs to her. When she opens her eyes again, she sees a little boy constantly teasing her before her eyes, seeing no response from her at all. The little boy immediately panics and shouts loudly, "Mother, why isn't sister responding?" The mother Isabella tearfully blames herself. "It's all my fault for keeping sister in my belly too long." The father Fernando hastily comforts her, his voice gentle yet firm. "Even if Sylvia's mind isn't well, she will always be our most beloved treasure." Who could have imagined that the former mastermind who manipulated countless nobles and aristocrats has now been reborn as a helpless infant, even suspected by those around her of being a slow-witted little fool? The days after rebirth pass painfully slowly. Finally, when Sylvia reaches 6 months old, she learns that her malicious and despicable nephew has actually ascended to the empire's throne. This news nearly makes her crush the milk bottle in her hands. At age 3, she learns from the maid's gossip that her sister who betrayed her and that faithless ex-boyfriend are about to enter marriage. At age 5, she hears that Duke Wellington has been rising steadily on his path to power. Sylvia's small body trembles with rage, her heart filled with anger and injustice. Why do these enemies get to prosper and rise to success, while she remains trapped in this weak young body, unable to execute any revenge? Fortunately, her father appears in time, pulling her tightly into his embrace, gently soothing her, finally calming her nearly uncontrollable fury. She can only comfort herself silently in her heart. "It's all right, I will lie dormant and wait. One day, I will make them pay dearly for everything they've done." And that day is finally approaching. Cousin Lucia persistently asks Sylvia to attend a school gathering. Sylvia initially refuses Lucia's invitation without hesitation, until she hears that young Master Stuart will also attend. Sylvia suddenly turns around with alertness. She sees Lucia excitedly introducing this remarkable young master in her eyes. Stuart Wellington, the youngest son of Duke Wellington. Hearing this, Sylvia's previously calm face suddenly displays a sinister smile. What a familiar name indeed. At that moment, she keenly senses that her long-planned revenge is about to begin. This Duke Wellington is merely from an ordinary noble family in a border town. Yet he rose to power through his wife's influential family connections, becoming what people see as a rising star among commoners. In reality, he's an opportunist who climbed up through nepotism. At this moment, Sylvia suddenly remembers that in her previous life when she died, Wellington's children with his wife were already in school. Given the wife's age, it would be difficult for her to bear more children. This means this mysterious youngest son might well be his illegitimate child. Thinking of this, Sylvia's lips curve slightly upward, forming a confident arc. This child might be the perfect stepping stone for her return to the pinnacle of power. The carriage slowly stops, and Sylvia gracefully steps down. Looking up, she sees only ignorant children playing and frolicking. The so-called important figures are nowhere to be seen. A blonde little girl mockingly takes the lead in attacking. Another one here for young Master Stuart. The blue-haired brat beside her chimes in, "Exactly. Who would have thought even an idiot would covet young Master Stuart?" The red-haired leader acts even more arrogantly. Noble gatherings naturally cannot exclude the most prestigious person. But whether those adults will spare time to attend is another matter entirely. Listening to these wet-behind-the-ears children mimicking adults' hypocritical tones, Sylvia cannot help but find it amusing. But in an instant, she understands the deeper meaning. Stuart will not come today. Just as Sylvia feels completely disappointed, she hears the red-haired girl begin boasting endlessly about her experience visiting the palace. Sylvia initially hopes to catch some useful political secrets. But unexpectedly, this girl repeatedly describes only the palace's carved beams, painted buildings, pavilions, and towers. All irrelevant idle chatter. Sylvia secretly feels fortunate that she pretended to be foolish from the start. Otherwise, she would have to join these bragging little brats in their meaningless chatter, wasting time and energy. Sylvia feels thoroughly disappointed and is about to leave this meaningless gathering, when suddenly the red-haired girl asks with feigned terror, "Have you heard the legend of the Naga Pool in Ernie Palace?" At these words, all the little devils immediately widen their eyes in shock, claiming they have heard this rumor from adults. Someone whispers, "Princess Stephanie committed suicide there," and every night afterward, the princess's ghost wanders there. Others claim that if you chant Princess Stephanie 3 times to your home's water pool, you can make a wish to her, though the price is exchanging your soul. Hearing this absurd legend, Sylvia silently mocks in her heart. How could these people know that in her previous life she was proud and stubborn and would never commit such a cowardly act? Cousin Lucia curiously asks, "Why did Princess Stephanie commit suicide?" The red-haired girl proudly answers, "Wasn't it because she wanted to steal Princess Erin's engagement?" Unfortunately, Lord Adonis despised her promiscuity and publicly rejected her. She felt too ashamed and threw herself into the Naga pool. Sylvia, who had been treating this as a joke, finally cannot contain her anger. She angrily refutes, "Complete nonsense. Adonis was originally Princess Stephanie's fiancé. The one who stole the engagement was Erin. Princess Stephanie truly preferred tall, handsome men." On the contrary, Princess Erin was most infatuated with pretty boys like Adonis. From this, it's clear that Princess Stephanie could not have committed suicide. The red-haired girl has never been questioned and naturally refuses to accept this. Just as she prepares to argue back, she sees Sylvia's lips curve slightly upward in disdain. The Naga pool's water only reaches an adult's waist. Do you think Princess Stephanie was a shorty like you who would drown there? Mentioning the truth of her previous life's death, Sylvia's hatred surges, and her hands unconsciously clench into tight fists. Losing emotional control, she shouts loudly. The so-called drowning was just an excuse to cover up the truth. For a moment, all the children are shocked speechless, and the silence becomes deafening. After a pause, Sylvia realizes she has said too much. Fortunately, her quick thinking allows her to pretend to be a little fool to muddle through. Just then, a luxurious carriage slowly stops before everyone, and a cold voice breaks the calm. Shut up! As the words fall, a small boy with a powerful presence steps down from the carriage. The boy's cold gaze directly locks onto Sylvia, then swiftly draws his sword, pointing it straight at Sylvia. You, a merchant's daughter from the lower city, how do you know about palace affairs? Sylvia is so frightened by this sudden turn of events that her legs go weak, and she falls onto the grass with a thud, her eyes filled with terror and innocence. This sudden incident also makes all the children quiet down, their gazes turning toward this scene. Lucia beside her turns pale with fright and hurriedly apologizes for Sylvia. Stuart shouts with a dark expression. I'm asking her, do you have the right to answer? Then, his cold gaze focuses on Sylvia again. How do you know about the palace's Naga pool? Sylvia secretly rejoices in her heart, thinking the opportunity has finally come. Seeing the girl remain silent, Stuart guesses whether she might be an admirer of Princess Stephanie, but then thinks this idea utterly ridiculous. At this moment, Sylvia's brain begins racing, thinking about how to win over this little boy. The Stephanie of her previous life was a politician at the pinnacle of power. Even the cunning Duke Wellington was defeated by her. Let alone this wet-behind-the-ears cub before her. Handling him should be effortless. Princess? How do you know? This cannot be spoken of. Sylvia begins her earnest performance, and Stuart becomes confused by her masterful acting, beginning to waver in his previous judgment. Could she really have some connection to Princess Stephanie? Sylvia keenly catches the curiosity in Stuart's eyes, then gently beckons to him. I'll tell you. Immediately after, Sylvia changes her tone and shouts at the top of her lungs. My mommy said I'm the most adorable little princess. My mommy also said that besides her, anyone who treats me like a princess is someone who wants to marry me. Hearing this, Stuart's face immediately becomes as ugly as if he had swallowed 100,000 flies. Before he can recover, he hears the girl ask, Do you want to marry me? Stuart's face instantly turns bright red. The children present also stare with eyes wide as saucers, and Stuart's embarrassment could dig 10 castles with his toes. Sylvia grabs his wrist, asking him to stay and chat with her. Stuart can no longer tolerate this and forcefully shakes off Sylvia's small hand. I'm about to enroll in Veer Academy and have no time to play house with an idiot. Sylvia looks curious. Veer Academy? Yes, a place you'll never get into in your lifetime. As soon as he finishes speaking, Sylvia's lips curve into a meaningful smile. Originally, she had no intention of going there, but now she has changed her mind, because Stuart is there. For 6 years, trapped in this small body and remote city, she has finally found a breakthrough. Stuart! Sylvia calls out to the boy again. The boy impatiently turns back. What else? Sylvia's face lights up with excitement. I want to go to school with you. A few days later, Sylvia arrives early at Veer Noble Academy for registration, accompanied by her family. Although her parents and brother are reluctant to part with her, her mind is made up because she knows this is the best opportunity for revenge. Just then, an impatient voice cuts through the surrounding noise. Caroline, the entire school has uniform dress codes. What are you trying to be special about? The teacher looks displeased. Caroline, a thin, weak girl, stands there helplessly, her small hands tightly clutching only 2 pitiful copper coins. People around are whispering. Her family has long been in decline, yet she insists on squeezing into this noble academy. Could she be planning to catch a wealthy husband? Sylvia beside her truly cannot stand watching this. With a wave of her small hand, dozens of gold coins clatter heavily onto the ground before the teacher, making crisp sounds. Give me 2 sets of the finest. I want my dormitory to use matching items throughout, otherwise the mismatched appearance will hurt my eyes. Then Sylvia turns to look at Caroline, playfully winking. You're in room 201, right? You'd better obediently listen and use these things. Caroline looks up, her eyes filled with shock and gratitude. Yes. Afterward, Sylvia bids farewell to her father, mother, and brother, then walks through the school gates without looking back, pulling her newly made friend along. The family standing outside watches her small figure, their eyes gradually moistening. Father's voice chokes slightly. Our treasure is truly wonderful. She made a friend on her first day. Caroline holds Sylvia's hand the entire way, thanking her for helping her out of the predicament. After all, someone like her, an outcast, is someone no one dares to associate with. Hearing this, Sylvia feels a surge of anger and retorts. Those who only know how to flatter the powerful and step on the weak are the real outcasts among humanity. Caroline advises her to be careful about speaking carelessly and offending those nobles. 90% of Veer Academy students are nobles, with the remainder being wealthy merchants' children or commoners with excellent grades. Nobles rule the entire academy, while others are mere ants in the nobles' shadows. Never provoke those nobles. Sylvia's lips curve slightly upward, revealing a dismissive smile. But the academy is inherently competitive. Even if I don't actively provoke them, I'll eventually have to face them. Speaking of this, Caroline remembers the Academy's regular competitions, where winners can earn bronze badges. Accumulating a certain number of bronze badges provides opportunities for exchange programs with the Imperial Capital Academy. Therefore, competing for bronze badges becomes a life-or-death battle regardless of social status. Just then, Sylvia sees in the distance a crowd gathering excitedly ahead where Caroline's mentioned bronze badge competition is taking place. Caroline says nothing and immediately pulls Sylvia toward the crowd. I heard this is the easiest bronze badge to obtain. Let's try it too. After some vigorous pushing, they finally get registration cards for the bronze badge competition. Sylvia looks at the competition items on the card and falls into brief contemplation, while Caroline eagerly pulls her along, clamoring to play a warm-up round first. Just then, the originally noisy crowd quickly separates to both sides, creating a wide passage. Sylvia suddenly looks up, her gaze penetrating through layers of people, immediately locking onto the newcomer, Stuart, his face bearing its usual arrogance and disdain, as if the entire world means nothing to him. Caroline's face has already turned pale with fright, her voice trembling. Quickly make way for young Master Stuart. But Sylvia remains completely motionless. She fearlessly meets Stuart's gaze, even as Caroline beside her is nearly scared to tears. Stuart wonders to himself how this foolish girl ended up here. She probably bought her way in. He snorts disdainfully. You're also participating in the welcome tournament? Stuart snatches the registration card from Sylvia's hand, then holds it high and shouts, Then let me be your opponent. Sylvia blinks her big eyes. She silently sneers in her heart. This illegitimate son has delivered himself to her door, truly saving her the trouble of seeking him out. Stuart thinks she's unconvinced. His lips curve into a smug smile as he leans down, whispering in her ear with sarcasm. Excellent hunters don't mind if their prey is too weak. Hearing the word prey, Sylvia cannot help but chuckle inwardly. If this were her previous life, she would certainly detest being treated as prey, determined to fight the opponent as equals. But now, she only wants to play the role of weak prey, luring this self-important hunter, step by step, into her carefully laid trap. Thinking this, she accepts Stuart's challenge without hesitation. The confrontation between Stuart and Sylvia officially begins. Stuart comes aggressively, looking down on everyone. He plans to teach Sylvia a proper lesson. Courage in battle is simply stupidity for the weak. But his self-important appearance only makes Sylvia find him utterly ridiculous. She knows clearly that as long as she's willing, Stuart standing opposite her would be the truly weak one. Because this competition's event is international chess, the specialty of Princess Stephanie, the former Grand Princess of the Aiello Empire. Victory or defeat is in her control. Caroline worriedly approaches Sylvia. Win at least one game. Don't lose too embarrassingly. But Sylvia merely plays carelessly with the pawn in her hand. Stuart's lackeys see this and immediately begin mocking. The pawn she's holding is as useless as she is. Sylvia's lips curve upward, revealing a mischievous smile. How can pawns be useless? They can stand on the chessboard, while you two cannot. At these words, the lackeys turn red with anger, steam rising from their heads. Stuart raises his hand to signal his followers to be quiet. Don't forget, we're only here to win the bronze badge. The first game begins. At the opening, Stuart plays each move steadily, while Sylvia seems to be fooling around, either randomly capturing opponents' pieces, or competing to see who runs faster. In everyone's eyes, she is undoubtedly a complete fool. But only she knows that all of this is her careful strategy, deliberately losing to Stuart to throw out the bronze badge as bait to hook him. While she contemplates, Stuart delivers checkmate with one move, cleanly ending the first game. The referee teacher exclaims in admiration, worthy of young Master Stuart using a knight and bishop mate. Stuart wins without suspense. The second game immediately begins, and Sylvia directly performs shocking illegal tactics, building a large castle with chess pieces. Stuart looks speechless and turns to the referee. Teacher, does this count as cheating? Unsurprisingly, Sylvia easily loses this game as well. She sighs deeply, pretending to be pitiful. You're so amazing. Can you teach me how to win? Stuart chuckles lightly, his eyes full of disdain. Sorry, I don't want to shame my chess teacher. The purple-haired lackey immediately jumps out to boast. Young Master Stuart's teacher is the chess master, Princess Erin. Hearing the familiar name Erin, Sylvia's hand holding the chess piece suddenly freezes. Memories from her previous life flood into her mind like a tide. Chess is like governing a country, nothing more than back-and-forth moves. That malicious woman Erin used to say she wanted to be her sister's follower for life, refusing to learn governance and chess. But in the end, it was all lies and betrayal. Sylvia cannot help but sneer. Erin, she's worthy? Stolen goods, yet she dares to flaunt them so brazenly? Caroline sees this and turns pale with fright. Stop talking. We can't afford to offend them. What if people say we're being disrespectful to the royal family? Only then does Sylvia come to her senses, realizing she accidentally spoke her thoughts aloud. Just then, more gossip about Caroline's family echoes around them, the words utterly unbearable to hear. The lackeys immediately burst into laughter. A poor girl and a nouveau riche, what a perfect match. Sylvia's anger ignites instantly. Having lived 2 lives, she utterly despises these self-satisfied snobbish fools. This time, she will never remain silent. She pulls Caroline's hand and stands up, her eyes determined. The bronze badge must be mine. A yellow-haired boy jumps out to defend Stuart. Do you think this is playing house? This is the Academy's welcome tournament. Sylvia smiles slightly. Third game. If I win, the bronze badge is mine. Young Master Stuart is so capable, surely he wouldn't be afraid to compete with me in a third game? The lackeys all advise Stuart to ignore this little fool, but Stuart hesitates. Seeing this, Sylvia steps forward boldly, using provocation so Princess Erin's talented student is a coward. Stuart vehemently objects. I just don't want to waste time. Sylvia presses further, I understand. You're afraid that losing would shame the Wellington family, right? Upon hearing this, Stuart becomes furious with embarrassment. I will never lose to you. Sylvia secretly rejoices. The fish has taken the bait again. The third game officially begins. Less than a minute into the opening, Sylvia loses her strongest piece. Stuart cannot help but mock. Still want to bet? Sylvia grits her teeth, her gaze determined. I bet you will definitely lose. If I win, the bronze badge is mine. If I lose, all badges I earn in the future will be given to you. Hearing these words, Stuart thinks she's hopelessly foolish and accepts the wager without hesitation. The teacher announces. Both parties agree. The contract is established. Sylvia casually drops a harsh line. It's too late for you to regret now. As soon as she finishes speaking, she seems like a different person, wreaking havoc across the chessboard. With just one exquisite promotion, she directly corners Stuart's king. Your king is now in my queen's grasp. Stuart immediately looks shocked. You did this on purpose? From the beginning, you planned to promote your pawn to queen and then checkmate my king? Sylvia's lips curve upward, her eyes full of confidence and pride. Who says pawns are the most useless? How do you know it's not a hidden queen? With her intelligence and wit, Sylvia emerges victorious in the third game and successfully wins the bronze badge. Stuart, who thought victory was assured, now shouts in frustrated anger. Stop right there! Was that just now your true self? Sylvia playfully winks, her lips curving into a sly smile. Guess? Seeing her expression, Stuart becomes livid and vows to win back the bronze badge. Seeing this, Sylvia proudly waves her hand. I'll be waiting! Caroline beside her is already conquered by Sylvia's brilliant performance. Oh my, you're amazing! But Sylvia doesn't think much of it. After all, beating a little cub is effortless. However, the next second, she suddenly comes to her senses. She had agreed to play the role of weak prey to lure that boy in. But now she's completely offended him. Sylvia regrets deeply. She looks weakly at Caroline and asks carefully, is it too late to return the bronze badge to him now? Caroline helplessly shakes her head. Too late. I heard young Master Stuart is very vindictive. Maybe you should consider. Sylvia steels herself and walks towards Stuart. At this moment, Stuart is full of hostility toward her. Sylvia hesitates, thinking to herself, this guy would rather bear the stigma of bullying the weak than fight me. He must be determined to win this bronze badge, and I happen to beat him in front of everyone. Now I'm really doomed. Sylvia doesn't know what excuse to find to appease him. Just then, someone approaches from a distance, shouting, Young Master Stuart! Young Master, people from the capital have arrived! Hearing this, Stuart's previously grim face immediately lights up with a smile. He coldly glances back at Sylvia and drops a harsh line. I will definitely get back today's humiliation. Sylvia's eyes immediately light up like stars. What did you say? At this moment, she's thinking about the person from the capital, wondering if it might be Stuart's shameless and cold-hearted father, Duke Wellington. The day Sylvia has long awaited is finally approaching, but her feelings are incredibly complex. Unable to contain her curiosity, Sylvia secretly follows Stuart to their meeting place. But what appears before her eyes are several arrogant-looking stewards. Stuart sees the visitors, and the expectation in his eyes instantly turns to disappointment. It's you. He had originally thought the visitor was his father. Looking around, he still cannot help but ask, Father still didn't come? The steward coldly responds. The Duke handles countless affairs daily. How could he have time to come to this remote place? Sylvia's gaze falls on the lily flower emblem on the steward's body, and she immediately understands. They are from Duke Wellington's wife's family. Having the wife's family stewards deliver things to an illegitimate son shows that Wellington doesn't value this illegitimate son much. Thinking of this, other revenge methods emerge in Sylvia's mind. Since Wellington chooses to be an invisible father, abandoning his son just to maintain the family's delicate balance, then I'll take pity on little Stuart and shatter this so-called balance. Sylvia's eyes sparkle with excitement. She can hardly wait to see their family tear each other apart. Just imagining the scene makes her laugh out loud. Suddenly, a deep voice comes from behind. What are you doing here? As soon as the words fall, Sylvia feels herself being lifted up like a little chick. Before her eyes are tempting chest muscles, and long legs stretching 2 meters. Even if you have a good body, you can't just pick me up. Sylvia struggles desperately, finally managing to lift her head to see the other person's face clearly. She immediately widens her eyes in shock and blurts out, Leo! Leo hears this name and pauses slightly, then gently sets her down and asks in confusion, How do you know my name? Sylvia looks at him, her heart filled with mixed emotions. How could she forget? This man who once swore in her previous life to shed his last drop of blood for her, to offer all his loyalty. How could she possibly forget his name? She just never expected they would reunite in this way. At this moment, Leo is full of doubt about how this little girl knows him. Sylvia casually makes up a reason. You're the Empire's first knight. Everyone knows you. Leo smiles bitterly. I'm now just an ordinary guard captain at Veer Academy. Sylvia is shocked to hear this. You've achieved great military honors for the Empire. How could they assign you to such a remote place? Leo reaches out to gently pat Sylvia's little head. Adult matters. Children shouldn't pry. Unable to protect that lord, it's better to stay away from that filthy place. Sylvia immediately understands upon hearing this. It's because of me. After my death, how could those people possibly spare Leo, who was my trusted confidant? Even though he once led the Eagle Knights to reclaim 3 cities for the Empire, they still kicked him to this godforsaken place. Sylvia's heart burns with anger, silently cursing those stupid and shameless bastards. Why do they all get to rise to success? While she and her loyal followers, one dies unjustly, one gets demoted. The more she thinks about it, the more frustrated she becomes. Sylvia cannot help but shout, "Why do all the people around me live so miserably?" Leo is completely dumbfounded. What did you say? Only then does Sylvia realize her mistake and quickly turns away. Nothing! After speaking, while Leo isn't paying attention, she takes off on her little legs to escape. But before she can run far, she's caught. Leo looks serious, as a student of Veer Academy, running around randomly and eavesdropping. What kind of behavior is this? Sylvia's heart sinks with an ominous feeling. Sure enough, Leo continues, in my capacity as the Academy's guard captain, I sentence you to clean the Academy's garden. Sylvia becomes frantic and loudly objects. No, you can't do this! While the two are arguing, Stuart suddenly pushes open the door with a bang. Who's making noise? Sylvia immediately feels embarrassed enough to dig herself into the ground. Stuart angrily questions, why are you here? Sylvia panics and tries hard to explain herself. I was just passing by. I didn't intentionally listen to your conversation with others. At these words, Stuart becomes even more furious, roughly grabbing her wrist. Exactly how much did you hear? He's terrified that his earlier tail-wagging, begging appearance was witnessed. Sylvia mutters in her heart, not understanding why he's reacting so strongly. Just as the two are locked in a stalemate, a sword suddenly separates them. Leo speaks coldly. Violence is forbidden within the Academy. Moreover, she is a lady. Attacking the weak is contemptible. Sylvia looks at this familiar Leo, her heart filled with relief, while Stuart is frightened into submission. He can only obediently apologize to Leo. I'm sorry, it was my oversight. Sylvia watches this scene, muttering to herself, has this little brat changed his ways? Sure enough, the next second, Stuart glances at Sylvia with eyes full of mockery. She's a little dwarf barely 3 feet tall, with a waist as thick as a carnival wine barrel. A little fool who lives in her fantasy world every day. What kind of lady is she? These words pierce straight into Sylvia's heart, like a sharp knife. She is furious beyond words, thinking she must teach this stinky kid a proper lesson. In an instant, Sylvia's tears flow like a bursting dam. Stuart immediately panics, but this kid has skin thicker than a city wall. In less than a second, he starts putting on an act again. Lord Leo, you must punish this eavesdropper. After hearing this, Sylvia doesn't take it to heart, because she knows Leo too well. With Stuart's foul mouth, Leo definitely won't let him off easily. Sure enough, Leo's face darkens as he glares at Stuart fiercely, then speaks coldly, for verbally attacking a fellow student. I, as captain of the Academy Guard, punish you to clean the Academy garden thoroughly. Serves you right. Sylvia can't help but snicker, but she never expects the misfortune to fall on her own head. Leo shoots her a deadly glare. Eavesdropping is equally shameful. You must clean as well. Sylvia is instantly dumbfounded, while Stuart, thinking he can perform well in front of the Empire's first knight, readily accepts the punishment. Sylvia sees right through his little scheme. This foolish boy thinks this will make Wellington look favorably upon him. What a pipe dream. She's secretly amused when she almost forgets she's also been punished, until Leo's deep voice rings out again. Miss, you should go clean too. Sylvia reaches out her little hand and pats Leo's shoulder. Leo, well done! Leo's heart trembles violently. A long-lost sense of familiarity surges through him. Once, there was someone who would pat his shoulder so casually and affectionately. For him, victory doesn't mean possessing gold and silver treasures, achieving high noble rank, or being surrounded by beautiful women. Victory means having that person's eyes only on him, having gentle words spoken only to him. She, who stood high above all others, treated only him, a person of humble birth, with special regard. Victory is like a special code, the fingers tapping gently on his shoulder. He doesn't care about those external things at all. He only longs to earn her eternal favor. Leo looks at the little girl before him, an absurd thought arising in his heart. Could Princess Stephanie have left descendants in this world? But reason quickly takes over, and he dismisses this ridiculous idea, getting up to tell Sylvia to hurry and clean the garden. Watching Sylvia's departing figure, Leo finds his own thoughts increasingly laughable. Whether Princess Stephanie had any children, he knows all too well. Just then, Teacher Xavier calls out to him, Lord Leo, what are you standing here for? Leo tells him about punishing the 2 new students. Teacher Xavier sighs. This year's freshmen are truly full of hidden talents. He then enthusiastically shares with Leo the exciting chess match from the welcome tournament. The moment Leo sees the chess notation, his pupils contract sharply. How does this playing style resemble Princess Stephanie's so much? He can't help but ask, who won this game? Teacher Xavier replies, a child named Sylvia. Sylvia? Isn't that the child who was just eavesdropping and patted his shoulder? Even blood relatives wouldn't be so similar. Leo can't help but entertain another bold speculation. Could Princess Stephanie have been reincarnated as Sylvia? But could such an extraordinary thing truly exist in this world? Leo falls into endless contemplation. He was Princess Stephanie's closest and most trusted person. The princess once jokingly said, "Even if I die someday, I would probably find a way to take you to heaven with me." Leo felt honored at the time, but now he thinks perhaps the princess isn't in heaven, but has returned to the mortal world. Princess Stephanie, please forgive a coward's self-deceptive fantasy. Forgive me for still hoping that you left some bloodline or trace in this world. Lord Leo, what's wrong? Teacher Xavier's concerned voice comes through. Leo snaps back to reality, shaking his head to indicate nothing's wrong. Then earnestly requests Teacher Xavier to share all news about Sylvia with him in the future. Teacher Xavier, thinking Leo is also a chess enthusiast, readily agrees. Meanwhile, in the garden, Stuart is diligently cleaning. Sylvia appears and greets him. After everything that happened before, Stuart hates this cute girl to the bone. He turns away directly, ignoring her, continuing to focus on sweeping. But Sylvia doesn't give up. Instead, she becomes more determined. Stuart can't stand her hovering around him, so he grabs the broom and swings it at her. "Get away! I don't want to see you!" Unexpectedly, Sylvia easily dodges and steadily steps on the broom. Stuart's face instantly turns ugly. Sylvia speaks slowly. "Don't fret about the steward matter. You should only care about Duke Wellington." In her heart, she knows that no one in this world understands Wellington's hypocritical nature better than herself. She then assures Stuart, "I can make those stewards treat you with respect. Even make Duke Wellington notice you." What? Stuart can't believe what he's hearing. He then pretends to be calm and shouts, "My father has always paid attention to me, and I've already decided what gift to give him. I don't need your help." Hearing the word gift, Sylvia immediately becomes alert. She can't underestimate this little brat. The next second, Stuart casually tosses the broom to Sylvia. Though Sylvia is somewhat flustered, she still catches it. She thinks that for revenge, she absolutely cannot let Stuart easily connect with Wellington. While her mind races with thoughts, Stuart abandons her and runs away. Sylvia looks at the mess behind her and is instantly dumbfounded. At this moment, Leo's voice rings out behind her. "Student Sylvia, have you finished cleaning the garden?" Under Leo's merciless supervision, after she finishes cleaning the garden, night has already fallen. Sylvia is exhausted, her back aching and legs cramping. She collapses on her bed, slowly recovering with Caroline's massage. Sylvia mutters quietly, "The technique isn't as good as Leo's, but it's still..." Caroline worries she won't be able to attend classes properly tomorrow. Sylvia doesn't care, since she could handle these elementary courses with her eyes closed. But she casually asks, "What classes are there tomorrow?" Caroline counts on her fingers seriously. Poetry, horseback riding, and painting. When Caroline mentions painting, she immediately becomes excited. This is one of Veer Academy's most famous courses. The winner of the annual Academy Art Exhibition even gets a bronze badge. Duke Wellington himself emerged from the art exhibition back then. With Caroline's reminder, Sylvia recalls an old incident. Back then, at Veer Academy's art exhibition, Wellington's painting Autumn Harvest caught the finance minister's attention. He asked Wellington about the meaning of his painting. Wellington explained that the person in the painting was his grandfather, who worked tirelessly through wind and rain, but had to pay all his year's harvest as agricultural tax. Autumn is the season of harvest, but also the season of farmers' sorrow. The finance minister appreciated his insight and talent, brought the painting back to the capital, and petitioned the emperor to reduce agricultural taxes. Wellington thus became famous in the capital, and entered the Imperial Academy. Sylvia immediately thinks of Stuart, guessing he'll probably try to imitate this. Meanwhile, in the boys' dormitory, Stuart stares thoughtfully at the paint in his hands. Since birth, his mother has constantly told him about his father. His mother places high hopes on him, wanting him to become as capable as his father. These enormous expectations gradually distort Stuart's psychology. He believes that gaining honor through the same method as his father is the only way to convince himself that he shares the same blood as his father, that he too is his father's son. The next day in painting class, the art teacher lectures on stage. But Sylvia pays no attention. Her little head turns this way and that, looking around. Suddenly, her eyes light up, locking onto her target, Stuart, who is currently focused on painting. Sylvia takes advantage of the teacher's inattention, tiptoeing carefully, silently sneaking behind Stuart. She stares intently at Stuart's painting. As expected, it matches her suspicions. There's a secret hidden beneath the surface painting. "What are you painting?" Sylvia deliberately shouts loudly while yanking off the top canvas with her little hand. "What are you doing?" Stuart is instantly furious. A portrait of Duke Wellington is revealed, with a line of text below, "To Father, James Wellington." Sylvia sneers disdainfully. "You really want to imitate Wellington's rise to fame at the art exhibition, and plan to give this painting to him." Stuart, his thoughts exposed, turns bright red and hurriedly stands up to block the painting. "It's none of your business." The teacher, hearing the commotion, turns around and scolds loudly. "Student Sylvia, you must not speak ill of Duke Wellington." However, Sylvia won't let it go. She clutches the canvas and dodges left and right in the classroom. "Stop daydreaming, Stuart!" Wellington doesn't like painting at all, nor is he the type of poet who would immerse himself in memories. He's just a guy full of schemes and plots. These words shock everyone present. Stuart rushes over to snatch back the canvas, roaring, "What do you know?" Stuart despises Sylvia, hating how she repeatedly tramples his meager dignity underfoot. But at this moment, he says nothing more, just silently turns and leaves the classroom. Actually, Sylvia did it deliberately, because only harsh medicine can make Stuart see reality clearly. Stuart's lackeys, seeing this, become red-eyed with anger, determined to avenge their boss. That evening, the lackeys take advantage of Sylvia being alone, tricking her by saying Teacher Jerome wants to see her and forcibly take her away. Sylvia had already guessed their intention, and decides to go along with their plan. Soon, the lackeys bring her to a dark, empty classroom on the 4th floor. As soon as they reach the door, the two change their expressions, eyes gleaming with malice. Sylvia feels a sudden force from behind, and before she can react, she's roughly pushed into the classroom. Immediately, with a loud bang, the classroom door slams shut. Seeing this, Sylvia immediately breaks into loud sobs. "What do you want? Let me out!" The lackeys outside mock coldly, "Weren't you so tough? You dared to oppose Lord Stuart, and now you're scared?" After saying this, they turn and leave without looking back. Little do they know, everything is under Sylvia's control. Sylvia had planned to go along with their scheme, letting Teacher Jerome witness her pitiful victim state firsthand, then use this to blackmail Stuart into agreeing to her conditions. But she didn't expect these two little fellows to be so stupid. Locking her in a dark room is such a childish tactic. It seems she'll have to create some wounds herself and set up a tragic crime scene. Meanwhile, through Sylvia's clever arrangement, Caroline runs frantically to find Teacher Jerome. But in her carelessness, she directly crashes into a wall of flesh. Caroline turns pale with fright and instinctively bows quickly to apologize. "I'm sorry, Lord Leo." Leo looks at the panicked little girl and asks calmly, "What's making you so frantic?" Caroline cries anxiously, "My roommate Sylvia is missing!" Hearing this, Leo's mind immediately conjures the little girl who resembles the princess. His expression tightens as he urgently asks what happened. Caroline sobs and explains everything clearly. "A few days ago, Sylvia specifically instructed me that someone at the academy wanted to harm her. If she doesn't return to the dormitory on time after class, I should immediately find Teacher Jerome. It's now been 5 hours since her usual return time." As captain of the Academy Guard, Leo has an undeniable responsibility for missing students. He immediately contacts the guard team to conduct a comprehensive search. Night quietly falls. Leo searches room by room and finally finds that 4th floor classroom. His heart races with anxiety. Without time to think, he kicks the door open forcefully, shouting loudly, "Sylvia!" But only endless silence responds to him. At that moment, an intense sense of foreboding surges through Leo's heart. Could Sylvia have already met with misfortune? Just like the princess did back then. Leo falls into deep self-reproach. If I hadn't been lured away to quell the rebellion, if I had been more perceptive to discover their conspiracy, if I had returned to the city earlier, the more he thinks, the more his spine runs cold. Can I really never save those I want to protect? Just then, there's suddenly a light tap from behind. Leo spins around sharply, seeing the sound came from the classroom across the hall. He rushes over and pounds on the door. "Sylvia, is that you? Are you in there?" Sylvia behind the door is completely bewildered hearing this voice. What's going on? Where's the promised Teacher Jerome? How is it Leo? She knows Leo is hard to fool. Having no choice, she quickly wipes the dirt from her face. "Step back!" Leo's voice rings out again. Before Sylvia can react, he draws his sword with a whoosh and swings it forcefully, completely shattering the classroom door. Sylvia is stunned. Fortunately, she dodged quickly enough, or it would have been terrible. Leo, seeing Sylvia safe and sound, rushes to her and kneels down. "I finally saved someone I wanted to save." Hearing this, Sylvia's head fills with question marks. "Someone you wanted to save?" Leo, in his excitement, grips Sylvia's hand a bit too forcefully, causing Sylvia to instinctively shake off Leo's hand. With this shake, something flies out from her sleeve. Sylvia freezes instantly. Leo, with quick reflexes, has already picked up the object. It turns out to be a small crossbow. Leo examines this crossbow for a while, then pulls back the bowstring. With a whoosh, the arrow shoots out, directly creating a large crater in the ceiling. Who would have thought this tiny sleeve arrow had such great destructive power? Now Sylvia couldn't explain herself even with 10 mouths. She can only bite the bullet and make up a story. What if I said this is just a toy for kids to play with? Would you believe me? Leo naturally doesn't believe it and directly exposes her. This sleeve arrow has enough penetrating power to break through the school's door locks. This isn't something a child your age should have. Even noble children from the capital can't obtain such things. Yet you had this kind of thing prepared long ago, ready to leave at any time. Why didn't you go? Could it be this sleeve arrow isn't for opening locks, but for revenge against those who bully you? Leo's detective work is too fast. Sylvia is rendered speechless. But she still wants to make excuses. "This is just a novelty my father brought back from the Goris Empire as a gift for my brother. I secretly took it to scare them. I didn't intend to use it, and I don't really know how to use it either." Seeing Leo's expression soften somewhat, Sylvia boldly pats his shoulder. How could such a powerful weapon be used for opening locks? It's like Lord Leo wasting his talents working as a guard here. If I were your master, I'd be heartbroken. Talent is the one thing that should never be wasted. Hearing these words, Leo's heart trembles violently. In a trance, he sees Princess Stephanie standing right before him. "Is it you, Your Highness?" Leo says, pulling Sylvia into a tight embrace. Sylvia, for that brief moment, immerses herself in this long-missed embrace. But she quickly snaps back to reality and pushes Leo away forcefully. "What did you call me?" Sylvia, hearing Leo call her Your Highness, feels her heart skip a beat. She knows Leo's character too well. Once he acknowledges she's Stephanie, this news will immediately spread everywhere, and her revenge plan will be completely ruined. So she immediately puts on a confused expression. "What, Your Highness?" Sylvia is still just a child. Leo instantly comes back to his senses, thinking he's overthinking things. That's right, she's just a child. He extends his hand towards Sylvia. "Come on, I'll take you back." Sylvia hesitates briefly, but still grasps that familiar warm hand. Though her heart is filled with mixed emotions, she knows now isn't the time to acknowledge Leo. The next day, news of Sylvia being trapped spreads throughout the academy. Everyone suspects Stuart is responsible. At this moment, Sylvia pushes open the classroom door and walks in. The originally noisy classroom suddenly falls into dead silence. Sylvia sits down to paint as if nothing happened. The lackeys actually start boasting triumphantly. "I knew this nouveau riche wouldn't dare oppose nobility." As soon as these words are spoken, Sylvia, without a word, grabs a bucket of dirty water, and with a splash, drenches the blonde boy from head to toe. The blonde boy is completely stunned. "What are you doing?" Sylvia smiles politely. "This is a small return gift." The blonde boy is furious, but Sylvia has no intention of stopping. She picks up another bucket of dirty water and strides toward the purple-haired boy. "Let you all see clearly whether a nouveau riche dares to oppose nobility." The purple-haired boy is so frightened he runs away. Sylvia pursues relentlessly. "Weren't you very impressive when you locked me in the empty classroom?" Then, Sylvia seizes the moment and hurls the water out forcefully. The purple-haired boy dodges behind an easel, and the entire bucket of water lands squarely on Stuart's painting. Everyone is dumbfounded. Sylvia also panics. What to do? What to do? Is there still time to fix this? Unfortunately, it's too late. Stuart enters the classroom with a dark expression and coldly utters, "It's you again." Sylvia nervously swallows. Just when she thinks Stuart is going to attack her, she sees Stuart wave his hand and rip down the canvas with a tearing sound. "I know they provoked you first, so I won't hold it against you this time, but stay away from me from now on and get out of my sight." After speaking, he turns around, and his thin figure actually trembles slightly. Sylvia's heart clenches suddenly, and she instinctively reaches out to grab him. The moment Stuart turns back abruptly, Sylvia's eyes are full of panic. She never expected that the usually arrogant and domineering Stuart would shed tears, and the culprit is actually her petite, delicate self. Having no choice, Sylvia tries to comfort the emotionally unstable boy. "Your painting could still win first place even when dirty." But these words obviously have no effect. Stuart doesn't care about this at all. His only goal is to present the painting to his father. Sylvia has a sudden inspiration and whispers in Stuart's ear, "You can ask the Stuart Council to help deliver the painting to your father." But Stuart looks disgusted, as if he finds her words utterly ridiculous. When one plan fails, Sylvia decides to use provocation. She raises the corner of her mouth with a hint of challenge. "Do you dare make a bet with me? Though after the welcome tournament incident, I guess you don't have the courage." These words completely ignite the fire of anger in Stuart's chest. "Bet then. Who's afraid of whom?" Without thinking, Stuart plunges headfirst into Sylvia's carefully laid trap. Sylvia's eyes flash with barely noticeable satisfaction. "Don't worry, I will definitely win." A few days later, the highly anticipated art competition arrives as scheduled. Everything goes exactly as Sylvia predicted. Stuart wins first place without suspense. The attending guests all marvel at his artwork, yet the Stuart Council members seem out of place. Though the art teacher lavishly praises Stuart's talent, the stewards treat it as mere self-promotion, coldly dropping the line, "We'll convey your achievement to the Duke," before turning and leaving arrogantly. The stewards seem to have come for some significant benefit this time. Benson angrily berates his subordinates for their incompetence. "With so many nobles and wealthy merchants, you couldn't secure a single partnership." Sylvia quietly observes all this from a corner. There's no surprise in her eyes, because she already knows the stewards came for that matter, and this is an excellent opportunity for both her and that Stuart kid. Stuart musters courage to approach Benson, requesting he take the painting back to his father. Benson looks at the artwork expressionlessly, seemingly wanting to say something but hesitating. Stuart's heart immediately hangs in suspense, thinking the matter is about to fail. Unexpectedly, Benson suddenly nods. "Young master, we will convey your sentiments to Lord Wellington." But Stuart feels no joy at all, because he clearly sees the perfunctory attitude and contempt in the steward's eyes. They don't care about his words at all, and have never taken him seriously. At this moment, he completely recognizes a cruel fact. In father's eyes, "I am insignificant." Sylvia approaches and mercilessly delivers the finishing blow. "Your father only gives his heart to useful people, and you are currently to him." Before Sylvia can finish, Stuart bitterly continues, "Currently, I'm just a useless waste, right?" Sylvia nods slightly. "It's rare you have such awareness. But don't be discouraged. I can make you valuable." Stuart tentatively asks about Sylvia's plan. Sylvia just smiles without speaking. Stuart immediately regrets, almost believing a little fool's nonsense. But recalling this little fool's previous actions, plus his father's potentially dismissive attitude, Stuart grits his teeth and agrees to cooperate. Seeing his agreement, Sylvia immediately states her condition. After success, Stuart must take her to the capital. Stuart is stunned, thinking she would make outrageous demands. He didn't expect she only wants to go to the capital to see the world. Little does he know, this is exactly the beginning of Sylvia's revenge plan. She wants to use Stuart to get close to those who harmed her in her previous life. Stuart doesn't think much about it and readily agrees, then urgently asks about the plan. But Sylvia's eyes light up as she excitedly suggests having a party first to celebrate. Stuart nearly explodes with anger. A few days later, Stuart's family hosts a charity auction under the pretext of donating to orphanages. But very few guests attend. The auction items are also utterly ordinary. Looking at the steward's disgusted expressions, Stuart finally can't help but explode at Sylvia. Can these broken things make my father change his opinion of me? My father has handled the king's crown, the queen's necklace, and helped countless refugees. Will he be interested in this gold-plated pocket watch auction? Stuart is extremely anxious, but Sylvia remains completely calm. He gets up wanting to end this farce, but is pulled back. Sylvia wipes her mouth and speaks slowly. This is just the first step. The auction item I've prepared is more precious than the king's crown. She firmly believes that treasure will definitely be bought for a high price. Stuart sees determination and confidence in her eyes, but he doesn't believe a reputation for charity can win his father's favor. Sylvia elegantly stands up, leaving behind the words, "Politics is like an iceberg. The main body is always underwater." Stuart is completely confused. At this moment, Sylvia walks up to the auction stage with her short legs, calling out loudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, look here!" The attending guests all cast strange glances, full of doubt, not understanding how Stuart got mixed up with this little fool. Seeing everyone's attention, Sylvia yanks away the cloth beside her. And for Stuart, what Sylvia pulls away is equivalent to his dignity. Stuart has never felt so humiliated. Because Sylvia's so-called priceless auction item is actually his ruined painting. The mocking laughter at the scene rises and falls. Stuart thinks this painting selling for $200,000 would be a miracle. Just as everyone waits to see the joke, Sylvia's mouth curves into a meaningful smile. Starting bid, $10 million. Benson stares in shock, thinking this child must be insane. Stuart is dumbfounded. He'll probably never be able to survive in Veal City after this great humiliation. At this moment, Sylvia glances at him, her eyes seeming to say, "Watch carefully. Underwater." Stuart doesn't understand for a moment. Then he sees Sylvia begin her performance. "Lord Stuart told me that Duke Wellington once told him a fairy tale." Hearing this, people at the scene suddenly become interested in this fool. Sylvia continues her story convincingly. Once upon a time, there was a king who wanted to test his ministers. He brought countless gold and silver, dazzling jewels, timeless artworks, and a broken helmet, letting them choose freely. Everyone else chose treasures, but only a small guard chose the helmet. The king curiously asked him why. The small guard replied, "This helmet is more precious than any rare treasure, because this is what your majesty wore when you were still an unregarded prince." The king felt he had finally found a kindred spirit and ultimately chose this small guard as his successor, giving him endless wealth and treasures. This is the story Duke Wellington's most low-key youngest son told me. But Sylvia is too stupid to understand the meaning of this story. Could it be that Lord Wellington has a treasure? And he's looking for someone who understands this treasure? But who exactly is the one who understands? A biological son's masterpiece, a trusted steward's arrival. Sylvia directly makes it clear, this is Duke Wellington's sincerity. Before her words finish, the entire venue erupts. Nobles compete to raise their bids. Finally, the painting is jointly purchased by two nobles for $60 million. Benson's jaw drops on the spot. $60 million equals 60 years of Veal City's tax revenue. Politics is indeed played crystal clear by Sylvia. What lies beneath the iceberg has never changed. Lower nobility's ambition to climb upward. Wealthy merchants' pursuit of power. Politicians' naked desire for financial support. And that hypocritical, laughable so-called dignity. This is Sylvia's confidence in daring to manipulate everyone with a ruined painting. However, Stuart can't understand why everyone starts throwing money around after hearing the story. Meanwhile, the $60 million has already entered Duke Wellington's pocket. He mutters in confusion, how could that backwater place produce so much profit? A subordinate reports, this is all the handiwork of Stuart and a girl named Sylvia. Wellington immediately becomes interested in Sylvia. At the same time, Sylvia is worrying about how to use this $60 million. Sighing and moaning, Stuart suddenly appears beside her, also sighing deeply. Sylvia jumps, "Why are you copying me?" Stuart vehemently denies, "Who's copying you?" I'm also thinking, Sylvia is curious what this little brain can come up with. It turns out he can't understand why those people were willing to pay high prices for his painting. Sylvia almost bursts out laughing, but still kindly enlightens this little fool. Since ancient times, politics and money have been inseparable close friends. Whether bureaucrats or nobles, to achieve success on the political stage, one must have financial backing. Stuart blurts out upon hearing this, "Isn't that just bribery?" "Shh." Sylvia quickly covers his mouth with her hand, kindly reminding him that words must be chosen carefully. Adults call this political cash. The purpose of Duke Wellington sending those stewards to Veer City this time is to collect political cash. This strategy was originally conceived by Princess Stephanie years ago. If one truly wants to extract wealth, It's better to target those country gentlemen and wealthy merchants. Unfortunately, this matter cannot be discussed openly. Stuart instantly understands. So you're using a painting as an excuse to allow them to deliver money to father's hands. Sylvia raises an eyebrow and nods. This is what the upper class calls maintaining dignity. Stuart suddenly becomes dejected. No wonder father doesn't favor him. Like his mother, he cannot provide father with the dignity he desires. Speaking of this, Stuart unexpectedly begins discussing his mother for the first time. Others assume she was a formidable socialite, but in reality, she was simply a very, very good mother. When my mother fell in love with my father, he was just a poor boy from a remote small town. He promised to return and marry my mother once he achieved success. But who could have imagined that after a few years of absence, he transformed into a political rising star and turned around to marry the daughter of a great noble family from the imperial capital. My mother and I, like others, could not see the financial transactions beneath the political iceberg, could not see the greed and shamelessness disguised as dignity, believing that a duke born from common people would forever maintain a heart like that of common people. Little did we know he had been juggling between my mother and his imperial capital wife all along. After being deceived by sweet words time and again, mother became completely desperate and ultimately chose the path of no return. Recalling the scene of his mother's suicide before his eyes, Stuart cannot help but shed tears. What's even more ridiculous is that the culprit behind all this tragedy is the very father he desperately tries to please. Seeing this, Sylvia immediately comforts him. Interest exchange. This is the rule of the nobility. Stuart naturally understands this principle, but he also yearns for family affection. He looks at Sylvia and cannot help but feel envious. She has loving parents and a brother who adores her. In contrast, his only loving mother is no longer alive, leaving him with only a stepmother who wishes for his death, siblings who despise him, and a father who never shows his face. After listening to his story, Sylvia suddenly finds this stubborn boy rather pitiable. "Do you hate Wellington?" Sylvia asks tentatively. Stuart remains silent. Sylvia can roughly guess the answer. "You long for Wellington's recognition but also resent him, don't you?" Stuart's suppressed emotions explode at this moment. "Yes, he toyed with my mother and deceived her. If not for him, mother wouldn't have died. You must find it laughable. A country boy who doesn't even know what political cash is, yet has obtained his current status and position. Clearly, it's all thanks to him, but I still resent him. I swore long ago to become stronger than him and make him kneel before my mother's grave to apologize." Stuart wipes away his tears and says with a stiff neck, "Go ahead and report me if you want." Unexpectedly, Sylvia merely pats his shoulder gently and praises his ambition. She then directly takes his hand. "In this world, all relationships are interest exchanges. As long as you can provide me with benefits, even if you commit blasphemy, I'll accompany you." Stuart suddenly asks, "What benefits do you want?" Sylvia momentarily doesn't know how to answer, as she can hardly say it's for revenge. Just as she racks her brain to fabricate a lie, Stuart's ears instantly turn red. He then abruptly withdraws his hand. "I actually guessed it, but I don't like girls of your type." After speaking, he runs away without looking back, leaving Sylvia standing there, torn between laughter and tears. A few days later, Stuart suddenly presents Sylvia with an exquisite dress. Just as Sylvia harbors suspicions, Stuart arrogantly invites her to attend his birthday banquet. "My birthday is in 3 days. It's a banquet organized by people my father sent, and they're arranging for me to take on a mentor." After hearing this, Sylvia merely nods perfunctorily. All right, I understand." Only after regaining her composure does she ask, "Take on a mentor? What kind of mentor?" Stuart boasts proudly, "Father has invited the renowned court painter Ashley as my private tutor." Ashley! Upon hearing this familiar name, Sylvia immediately agrees to attend Stuart's birthday banquet. With just one small request, she implores him to let her meet this master Ashley. Stuart cannot understand why Sylvia, who has always favored a wild artistic style, would also be interested in painting. But he still cannot resist Sylvia's persistent coaxing and eventually agrees. Sylvia changes into the elegant dress. Stuart's eyes widen in amazement. "This little fool actually looks somewhat cute wearing the outfit I prepared." Before he can recover, Sylvia grabs his arm and rushes toward the banquet hall. She cannot wait to meet Ashley, as he is someone who has long mingled in the palace and might be the catalyst for uncovering the truth. Ashley had once agreed to paint Princess Stephanie's coronation portrait, but that painting was never completed because she was murdered by those people the night before her coronation. That night, she sent Ashley to scout the coronation hall, and he might have witnessed something. Sylvia thinks that if she can keep Ashley by her side, her revenge will be more assured. At this moment, Stuart behind her feels inexplicably irritated. He clearly senses that Sylvia has ulterior motives. Moments later, Benson announces the beginning of young Master Stuart's birthday banquet. Although Duke Wellington cannot attend personally, he has personally prepared a gift for the young master. He signals for his subordinates to bring forth the gift. "These are paints specially commissioned by the Duke for you. The blue paint in particular is ground from precious sapphires." Stuart receives the bottle of blue paint with trembling hands. His heart aches. Indeed, father doesn't even know about his sapphire allergy. At this moment, Sylvia notices his distress and deliberately creates a disturbance, reminding him that this is merely interest exchange and advising him not to get too emotionally involved. With Sylvia's reminder, Stuart instantly becomes clear-headed. That's right, this is just interest exchange. Though my current value may be insignificant, I'm destined to bring him greater benefits in the future, Stuart solemnly promises. Before everyone, from now on I will work even harder and will not disappoint Father's cultivation of me. These words immediately draw enthusiastic applause from the entire hall. Even Benson, who has always looked down on him, now views him with newfound respect. Stuart looks at Sylvia like a child seeking approval. Just as Sylvia is about to show an approving smile, the red-haired girl deliberately bumps into her while passing by. Sylvia stumbles and falls onto the carpet, while the red-haired girl has already rushed to Stuart's side and begins flattering him. Seeing Sylvia fall, Stuart nervously steps forward. "Are you all right?" But Sylvia looks up and gives him a glance, reminding him not to be hasty. Stuart immediately understands and resumes his elegant, composed, noble demeanor. "Are you all right?" Sylvia smiles and indicates she's fine. Seeing how close the two are, the red-haired girl immediately becomes jealous and attempts to slander Sylvia in front of Stuart. But before she can utter a single word, Stuart orders her to be silent. At this moment, Benson's voice penetrates the noise. "Ladies and gentlemen, please quiet down. Let us welcome the former court painter, Baron Ashley Bronk." The distinguished Ashley makes his entrance, causing the entire venue to erupt in excitement. Sylvia can barely contain her inner excitement. "Ashley. It's really Ashley." However, at this moment, those eyes blessed by God probably don't recognize me anymore. But that's fine. In this lifetime, let us get to know each other anew. Ashley slowly speaks. "Everyone, it's our first meeting. I am Ashley." He then slowly approaches Stuart. "In the future, I will serve as your private tutor." He then removes the necklace from his neck and presents it to Stuart as a greeting gift. Stuart feels somewhat overwhelmed. This is too valuable. The red-haired girl beside him also feels happy for Stuart, but she doesn't understand the significance behind this necklace. "This was given to me by Princess Stephanie when I first became a court painter. I hope you will treasure it." Princess Stephanie is a forbidden topic, and the venue immediately buzzes with commotion. This Ashley clearly wants to embarrass Master Stuart. Unexpectedly, Stuart gladly accepts it, partly for Sylvia's sake, as she greatly admires Princess Stephanie and would surely love to see it, and partly because Father wouldn't care what he accepts anyway. Stuart smiles and thanks Ashley, expressing that he likes it very much. Ashley didn't expect him to show no anger whatsoever, especially since giving him his father's sworn enemy's token at such an occasion. What a pity that this person's son doesn't deserve to cherish Princess Stephanie's belongings. Meanwhile, Sylvia seems to see through everything. Ashley's seemingly casual gift is clearly a test of the Wellington family's attitude toward Princess Stephanie. Sylvia has reason to suspect that his coming to serve as this private tutor is to investigate Wellington's connection to Princess Stephanie's death. At this moment, melodious music begins to play. The red-haired girl actively invites Stuart to dance the first dance. Stuart refuses without hesitation. "Sorry, I'm busy." His gaze sweeps across the banquet hall. "Are you going to accompany Master Ashley?" The red-haired girl stamps her feet in anger. "No, I just need to help a certain troublemaker make connections." The red-haired girl glances at Sylvia, who is hiding behind a pillar, staring intently at Ashley. She grits her teeth in hatred, unable to understand why Stuart would introduce Sylvia to Ashley. Jealousy gnaws at her heart like a venomous snake. The red-haired girl suddenly calls out to Stuart. "According to Imperial Capital customs, one should present rose hydrosol to elders as a sign of respect. I happen to have brought rose hydrosol from the Imperial Capital." The red-haired girl wants to use the rose hydrosol to drive a wedge between Sylvia and Stuart's relationship. She produces a bottle of scented powder. This substance, besides being fragrant, has one major characteristic. It causes diarrhea. The ladies of the Imperial Capital all use this to maintain their figures. As long as Ashley drinks this rose hydrosol, he will definitely have diarrhea, and then Sylvia won't be able to get close to Master Stuart. The red-haired girl hands the heavily doctored rose hydrosol to Stuart. Stuart accepts this gesture without hesitation, completely unaware of the malicious intent hidden behind it. On the other side, Sylvia approaches Ashley with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation, but is suddenly stopped by a small hand. Stuart plans to personally introduce her to Ashley. Sylvia looks confused, as he hands her a drink. "Aren't you very interested in that, Ashley? I'll take you to present him with rose hydrosol." Shortly after, the two approach Ashley. "Teacher, this is my friend." Stuart suddenly becomes tongue-tied, his face showing hesitation as if he doesn't know how to introduce Sylvia. After a brief pause, he grits his teeth and shouts, "My classmate! She greatly admires you and wants to present you with a drink." This shout is so loud it nearly deafens Sylvia. What's gotten into this child? Sylvia composes herself and speaks sweetly. "Good evening, Master Ashley. I particularly love your painting, The Hidden Maiden." Ashley is slightly taken aback, surprise flashing in his eyes. He didn't expect a 5-year-old child to know about his early works. But Sylvia knows far more than this. She also clearly knows that the original model for that painting was Princess Stephanie. Back then, Princess Stephanie had merely taken a short break and rested for a while, and Ashley captured her with his brush on the canvas. Discussing this work into which he had poured unique emotions, Ashley's originally somewhat stern expression visibly softens. At this moment, the red-haired girl in the corner is staring at them with a shifty expression. Sylvia keenly notices that unusual gaze and immediately feels an ominous premonition. What is she looking at? Stuart? But Stuart pays no attention, focusing entirely on recommending Sylvia to Ashley. "Teacher Ashley, please taste this rose hydrosol. This is brought from the Rose Manor in the imperial capital by Lady Camilla's niece." Upon hearing this, Ashley readily extends his hand to receive the cup from Sylvia, but Sylvia instinctively hesitates, her small hand gripping the cup tightly. Seeing this, Ashley is filled with confusion and gently asks, "Is there any problem, little friend?" Hearing this, Sylvia immediately withdraws her hand, offering the rose hydrosol. Stuart cannot understand Sylvia's behavior. Sylvia, being perceptive, notices the shifty Margaret and immediately guesses there's something wrong with the rose hydrosol. How could Margaret, who's always stingy, generously give up something good for me to please others? To expose Margaret's scheme, Sylvia plans to have her taste the hydrosol first. Quick as lightning, she rushes to Margaret and forcefully drags her out. "Margaret, I heard there are special rules for tasting imperial capital beverages." Margaret is forced to accept the hydrosol, her face looking extremely unpleasant. Sylvia asks with an innocent expression, "Why aren't you drinking? Is there something wrong with this rose hydrosol?" Margaret feels uncomfortable under the stare of several pairs of eyes. She quickly covers up, "No problem. What problem could there be?" After speaking, Margaret reluctantly drinks the entire rose hydrosol, and then hands the cup to Sylvia. "Are you satisfied now?" Sylvia blinks her big eyes. "Satisfied with what? You haven't explained how to taste it yet." At this moment, Margaret's stomach makes a gurgling sound. She endures the pain and shouts, "I don't want to talk to you!" Knowing that staying longer would only lead to embarrassment, Margaret drops the line, "I'll settle accounts with you next time," and runs away clutching her stomach. Stuart leans close to Sylvia's ear to inquire, but Sylvia indicates they'll discuss it later. The urgent matter is to chat with Ashley, as after 6 years of separation, she needs to test his stance. Upon hearing this, Stuart immediately becomes jealous. "What can't I hear?" Ashley immediately steps forward to mediate. A true gentleman should fulfill a beautiful lady's small request. Stuart has no choice but to watch the two leave, but he worries about Sylvia being deceived. Soon, Sylvia and Ashley arrive at the garden pavilion. Ashley speaks first. "Lovely little miss, what do you want to discuss with me?" Sylvia's expression turns serious. "There's something wrong with your eyes, isn't there, Teacher Ashley?" Ashley's heart skips a beat. Not expecting her to see through him, he forces a calm smile. "Why do you say that?" Sylvia interrupts him. "I've heard that you're renowned for your exquisite use of color. And even if rose hydrosol's red were mixed with a hint of tender pink, you could distinguish it." Ashley becomes increasingly puzzled. How does a merchant's daughter know such noble secrets? Sylvia continues explaining. Margaret wouldn't bring poison to a banquet, so she could only tamper with scented powder, and scented powder has color. Why didn't the court painter Ashley, who possesses divine eyes, notice the problem with that cup of rose hydrosol? Surely it's not because we're country children that you're particularly at ease. Sylvia's eyes flash as she probes. "Your eyes have problems, yet you can serve as Stuart's teacher. Could it be that you have a close relationship with Duke Wellington?" Ashley's heart trembles, not expecting this little girl to be so sharp. But he really cannot bear to involve a child in the dirty political whirlpool, so he changes the subject. "I haven't seen such a clever and aggressive girl in a long time." Ashley instinctively reaches out, wanting to pat Sylvia's intelligent little head. Just as his fingertips are merely 0.01 millimeters from her hair, his hand suddenly stops, and then slowly withdraws. The keenness, strength, vigorous vitality, and unstoppable aggressiveness that Sylvia possesses all remind Ashley of Princess Stephanie, and guilt gnaws at his heart like insects. If he had been able to notify the princess in time, she might not have died tragically, and he wouldn't have fallen to his current state. On the night before the coronation, Ashley accidentally witnessed Aaron and Adonis in heated argument. The two had serious disagreements about their plan to usurp everything from Princess Stephanie. Aaron was clearly fed up with Adonis's evasiveness. Adonis hurriedly persuaded, "I'm not being evasive. You know Stephanie's temperament. If we reveal that matter, she definitely won't spare us." Aaron sneered mockingly. "You still haven't recognized reality. In my dear sister's eyes, you can't even compare to her crude knight Leo. You're nothing more than a decorative fuss." Upon hearing this, Adonis immediately flew into a rage and threw Aaron to the ground. Aaron glared at him viciously. "You fear her, but I don't. I have a trump card to deal with her." At this moment, she sensed movement nearby and sharply turned around, discovering a fleeing figure. Was that the painter? Aaron was furious. Ashley risked danger trying to inform Princess Stephanie, but was ultimately too late. From then on, Aaron became highly suspicious of him, causing him to suffer repeated accidents. After barely saving his life, he faced repeated interrogations from Wellington. "Are you still thinking about Princess Stephanie?" To leave the palace and to reassure both Wellington and Aaron, Ashley could only cruelly damage his own eyes. Now, though he can see objects, he can only make out vague outlines, and those complex colors are beyond his ability to distinguish. Ashley had planned to take these memories to his grave, but Sylvia has an inexplicable familiarity that unconsciously brings everything back. The adult world is complicated. Children should just obediently listen. Ashley raises his hand to pat her head, but receives Sylvia's righteous rebuttal. "Don't try to fool me?" Ashley smiles helplessly. In any case, children shouldn't meddle in adult affairs. After speaking, Ashley slowly kneels down, gently takes Sylvia's small plump hand, and places a kiss on the back of her hand. "My little princess, if you need anything in the future, you can come to me anytime." Sylvia's heart is filled with mixed emotions. At this moment, Leo, who happens to be passing by, witnesses this scene. His gaze sharpens, and he keenly associates this with Princess Stephanie. Leo is amazed. Ashley, Princess Stephanie's loyal follower, now shows such courtesy to a little girl. He considers this carefully, and the only reasonable explanation is that Ashley also thinks Sylvia resembles Princess Stephanie. Leo is contemplating finding an opportunity to have a good conversation with Ashley, when Evelyn comes running over, out of breath. Compelled by Margaret, she has come to report to Leo. But seeing Leo's stern face, Evelyn becomes nervous and incoherent. Teacher Leo, Sylvia wants to harm Teacher Ashley. She put drugs in the drink. Leo is completely confused. He watches Evelyn frantically explain, I saw Sylvia put drugs in Teacher Ashley's drink. She wants to harm Teacher Ashley. Leo recalls the scene of the two conversing pleasantly just moments ago, and cannot see any indication that Sylvia wanted to harm Ashley. Leo trusts Sylvia, but he feels this matter of children's conflicts escalating to drugging must be addressed. So Leo calmly tests Evelyn. What drug? Where was it administered? When did you see this? Evelyn is suddenly stumped. After thinking for a long while, she begins fabricating a story. It was the rose hydrosol that Lady Margaret brought back from the imperial capital. Sylvia administered the drug on the terrace, and I saw it when I went to get some air. The more Leo listens, the more illogical Evelyn's story becomes. How did Margaret's item end up in Sylvia's hands? And drugging on the terrace would be unsafe. Just as he's thinking, hurried footsteps sound behind him. Margaret comes rushing over in a panic, crashing right into Leo. She then curses while holding her head. Who's so blind as to block my way? Looking up to see it's Leo, Margaret immediately panics. Seeing Evelyn's expression of mission accomplished, she panics even more. She had almost forgotten about instructing Evelyn to make the report. Now that Ashley didn't drink that beverage, and Evelyn, unaware of the truth, still came to report, Margaret grits her teeth and decides to pin all the blame on Sylvia. Teacher Leo, I drank Sylvia's beverage, and now my stomach hurts terribly. Leo doesn't believe Margaret's words at all. He glares fiercely at Margaret and sternly questions, is it Sylvia who administered the drug, or you? Margaret quickly denies, I didn't. Leo grips his accessory tightly, his eyes sharp as if seeing through everything. Margaret, are you sure you want to lie to my face? Margaret immediately falls silent, and Leo has already determined she's the mastermind, with Evelyn as her accomplice. When Evelyn hears Leo wants to report to the school, she's so frightened she immediately turns traitor and reveals the truth. It was Margaret who said to administer the drug to embarrass Sylvia. Margaret becomes furious upon hearing this and wants to pounce on Evelyn. At the critical moment, Leo lifts both of them like picking up chicks. At such a young age, you're already harming classmates. You must publicly apologize to Sylvia and come to me daily for reflection, copying school rules for 1 hour. Margaret is very unwilling, but one deadly glare from Leo makes her obediently agree, though she secretly swears to repay today's humiliation someday. At this moment, Margaret's stomach rebels inconveniently. Oh no, am I going to soil my pants? She desperately begs Leo to let her go first, but Leo insists on taking her to apologize. Margaret's face turns red with strain, almost ready to cry. Just let me use the bathroom and I'll definitely apologize. After this incident, Margaret's carefully cultivated ladylike image completely crumbles.